Welcome in everyone to Let's Talk Utes. Today we are continuing our fall camp coverage, heading into the 2024 Utah football season. We are doing positional group confidence rankings today. We will rank all of these position groups 1 to 5, 5 being the most confident, 1 being the least confident. And let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite videos to do every single year. And we've actually added, if you look on the right side of the screen, we have Utah, some of their defensive stats from last year. So that's something that we're going to be able to refer to while ranking. And then once we get to the offensive positions, we'll switch to the offensive stats.
Again, shout out Pick 6 previews.
Yeah, seriously.
Excellent resource. If you haven't bought that preview, definitely buy it. It's well worth the money. It's only $20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's jump into the cornerbacks. Some of the highlights here, obviously, Zemiah Vaughn, returning starter. Transfer Keenan Johnson from Georgia Tech. Cameron Calhoun, transfer from Michigan. We obviously have Smith Snowden, who is going to be playing the nickel a lot, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple of young guys, CJ Blocker as well, coming into the program. Well, CJ Blocker's been here for a year, but his second year, still a young player.
Something I really like about our cornerback room is the size we have. I think everyone except Smith Snowden, that probably will get a lot of playing time this year, are 6 foot or plus. This is my Vaughn 6'1". I mean, that's an excellent size for corner. We're able to lock up any wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
he's shown that he can do it. Last year he was excellent. He had some miscues. Hopefully that another offseason helps him out there. And then I'm just really excited to see Keenan Johnson. He missed the spring game. We weren't able to watch him then when we went there. But just watching his tape for Georgia Tech, he looks like an excellent boundary corner.
Yeah, I like the cornerback room a lot going into next year. I think they performed really well last year, especially when you take into account the level of talent they were facing. Because if you look to the right of the screen and you see our like QB rating, completion percentage, explosive pass, those numbers don't look great, but you need to add context to that. This is a team that played Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Cam Ward, like
Noah Fafita
across the board. And I mean, with the best receivers too, Tedro McMillan, Oregon's whole suite of receivers, USC's receivers, like
Roma Dunze.
Yeah, Roma Dunze,
Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter.
Yes.
I think we did miss Shadur, but Travis Hunter was still playing that game. But still, an excellent quarterback.
And so it makes sense. No secondary. Good offense is always going to beat good defense, but Utah did an extremely respectable job in the passing defense, especially with who we played.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that the cornerback room has a lot of boom or bust potential.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Zemiah Vaughn is really the only one that I feel really good about being an established guy who I know what I'm going to get for. There is a lot of unknown. I think Smith Snowden is the perfect guy to play the nickel because he'll be guarding those slot receivers or sometimes running backs coming out of the backfield. And he has the speed to be able to keep up with the fastest players on the other team as a track star.
Yeah. Someone I want to talk about a little bit. I don't know how much playing time he'll get this year. I know he's suffering from an injury kind of during the spring season. He got hurt, but watching Cameron Calhoun in the spring game was awesome. I mean, Dorian Singer was having a field day with Cameron Rising, but Cam Calhoun came on him, had that swagger that every quarterback needs.
Yeah.
Came in and shut down on a curl route that, I mean, it's extremely difficult to stop in the first place. And Cam Calhoun was up in Dorian Singer's face having a fun time. I'm hoping he, obviously as a freshman coming from Michigan of all places, an incredible program. I'm hoping he has a great year.
Yeah. I just hope he's healthy. He has been dealing with some sort of injuries, and we don't know the extent of it in classic Utah fashion.
Yeah.
So we don't really know how healthy he's going to be. Is he playing? But we do know at least that it's not season-ending, or else they would have announced it. So there definitely is some hope that he's going to be able to play significant games this season.
Yeah.
And if not, I mean, I'm confident that Scally and cornerback coaches will get them prepared for next year because, I mean, we have a really young group here. I give them a 4. The youth is a little bit scary, but I mean, watching them play, the tape they have on all of them, they look great. I'm confident in this cornerback room this year.
For me, I could easily see them being a 4 at the end of the year because I do trust Scally and Coach Shaw to get people ready. You know, we're always going to have good corners, good safeties, good defense in general at Utah. That's just the culture there. And so they have enough proven pedigree to trust their track record. But I am quite worried about, you know, filtering in new players and maybe the lack of experience in the room. And so relative to the other position groups or maybe some older cornerback rooms of years past where we maybe had, kind of that number one guy in Clark Phillips. I'm going to go to a 2 or a 3. I think I'll probably lean 2 just because of the inexperience, but I think that could rise way up.
I mean, that's very fair.
For me, I'm definitely a little higher than you are on this group. I like Zamiah Vaughn as a number one corner. Like, I think he's that guy, and I think he'll get even better. And then I really like the young pieces. So for me, I would put the room at a 4. So just averaging that, I think we'd be at about a 3.
Yeah. I think
And that sounds fair to me. I'd be like a 3.5 if there was
Yeah.
a 0.5.
yeah.
And really, if there was one guy that I knew I could rely on that had been here previously, that would easily be a 3 or a 4 for me. It's very close on the edge for me, and I'm not down on the group. I just
Mhm.
want to see it first.
Yeah,
completely.
exactly.
But talking about previous groups, like I was a lot more confident when we had a guy like Clark. I
Yeah.
mean, Vaughn is great, but I don't know if he can be that bona fide one. So I think kind of convinced me trying to drop it down at one scale.
Yeah.
Like 3 is a really good fair
Okay.
spot for me. So I
Yeah.
think 3 is awesome.
4 for me is too high because there's just too much unknown for me.
Completely
Yeah.
understandable.
Okay, let's move on to the safety group. This one is also a lot of unknown, probably even more because we
Yeah,
lose
agreed.
both Cole Bishop and Sione Vaki. Of course, we have Teo Johnson sliding from quarterback to safety,
Which I love.
Extremely positive reviews for him so far at that spot. Nate Ritchie returning, Aliki Gilman transfer, and Jonathan Hall, I believe, is a third-year player coming in this year at
Mhm.
safety. So quite a few interesting options there. What do you guys think?
I think Aliki Gilman's going to have a really good year. I would honestly, just because of the experience he has already having played college ball at Stanford, obviously, I think he may be the starter or at least one of the starters. I like what he's going to be able to do for Utah, and I like Teo Johnson a lot. I don't know if I can go past 3 just because I haven't loved Nate Ritchie's performance. He's gotten burned a few times when he's in the game. But we'll see if the safety room can, I don't know, maybe improve. It's hard to replace the loss of Cole Bishop and Sione Vaki, though.
This year, this is probably my biggest question mark for Utah football, especially on the defensive side. Teo Johnson, I really liked him at the nickel last year. He looked really, really good. And so him moving up to safety does give me a little bit more confidence than I would have originally. But kind of backpacking what Landon said about Nate Ritchie, his tape just hasn't been my favorite. I do kind of want to bring up Rabbit Evans. He's just that JUCO transfer from Bloom College that people have said they really like his tape. They really like
Yeah.
has his freak athleticism. So maybe he gets in. If he gets some playing time, I'll be excited to watch him a little bit. I mean, he has really good size as well,
Yeah, I heard he might also play some nickel as well. He might back up Smith Snowden
which is
at the nickel.
That'd
I
be
like that as
awesome.
well.
I like that too. Yeah,
So-
he seems like a kind of a versatile piece. It's going to be really good for depth because injuries happen.
Yeah.
Of course,
He'll be on the field this year, at least for some of it. I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, next year it gives me a little bit more confidence if he gets on the field more this year and next
Yeah.
year. So for me, it's probably the lowest I'm going to give today. I'm with the scale. I'm leaning more towards like a 1. Like they have
It's just unproven.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have the skill. I truly believe so. It's just how is that going to translate to every single week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I kind of like the mix of players that there is because Aliki Gilman, obviously from Stanford, has a ton of experience, was a good player at Stanford. I wouldn't say he was elite, but he was good.
And I think Utah's system would get better as
Yeah,
well.
I agree. I think Teo Johnson, as far as maybe anyone in the defensive back room, corner, nickel, or safety, I think has maybe the most pro potential of anyone.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's whether he puts it together this year or next year or 2 years from now. I think he'll put it together this year, but it's never a sure thing before you've seen it on the field. Nate Ritchie, I like a little bit more than you guys. You guys are a little bit more down on him. I think he's been serviceable. Like, I think that he was good depth for Cole Bishop and Sione Vaki, and I didn't think he was terrible when he came in, but I didn't think he was like elite either. I thought he was serviceable. Like, I thought he's someone that I would feel okay playing. And Jonathan Hall to me is the big wild card, the one that can make this go up or down. I think that the athleticism is there, but can he learn the game at a position well enough for the coaches to trust him and put him out there and make a big
He
impact?
kind of gives me Marquise Blair type of vibes. I mean, just he's a
Yeah.
little bit thicker of a safety. I love it. I hope because he could be a dog. He could be the Marcus Williams.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
list for the last 10 years safeties. He could be that new guy. Same with Teo Johnson. I really hope that happens.
So for me, since it is safeties, you know, safety pride with Coach Scally, there's a
Yeah.
huge tradition of safeties. For me, with what they've brought in and the things we're hearing out of camp as far as Teo Johnson's skill, to me, I'm still at a 2. I'm still at a 2. I don't think it's quite a 1 because it's just hard for me to put a safety group at 1 confidence.
Very true.
For me, I'm between a 2 and a 3. I am a little higher on these guys than I think you guys are. And then another thing with this rating, if we put a group at a 1, it doesn't mean we think they're trash. It's just confidence. Are we confident they're going to be really good?
Yeah, because the standard at Utah is high for defense.
Well, there's only been one person that started for Utah last year, and he's at a new position. Nickel to safety is should be a pretty seamless transition, but there is still that transition. That's why it's a little bit hard for our defensive backs in general are young.
Yeah,
it's just hard for me to have that confidence. They're really young.
So this is
Scally though.
This is relative to past versions of the Utah position group, and what we expect from Utah corners and safeties.
If we put a position group at a 5, we expect them to be the best or one of the best in the Big 12 and one of the best units nationally.
We expect them to be. We expect them to be one of the best position groups that Utah's ever had at that position. Say we put the tight ends in 5. We're expecting that to be one of the best tight end rooms Utah's ever had.
Spoilers.
But where do we feel with safety? Were we at a 2?
2, I think.
I think 2 is average.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the linebackers. I think that losing DeMooney hurts off the bat. I think that should be mentioned because I did think he was quite good last year. I think
he was our best run-stopping linebacker, I think. It felt like, if you look to the right at our rushing stats, 83 yards per game.
That's
4th
insane.
in the country.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
DeMooney was a big part of that.
He was always in the right spot. He was athletic enough to make plays and just a smart player. So losing him hurts.
For me, this would probably be the easiest 5 of the day if DeMooney was there.
Agreed.
Because having DeMooney, it just helps my biggest concern with the linebacker room, and that's the depth. What happens if Cranny Reed gets injured?
Yeah, what happens if Barton goes down again?
Yeah.
Barton goes down again. What happens? I'm really confident on our 3.
Yeah.
And with Sione Fotu, Cranny Reed, and Lander Barton, I'm extremely confident in those 3. It's just the what if.
Yeah, where do we go from there? I'm totally on your same page.
Exact same page with me. I love the top 3. It would be 4 pushing 5 if DeMooney was there. Without DeMooney, it's a solid 4 for me just because the linebackers are so good, even if the depth isn't as deep as you would like. The players are just so good, I have to go 4.
I think the top 3 is one of the 10 best linebacker groups nationally.
I agree with you.
I think Lander Barton could probably leave to the NFL after this year. I hope he stays for his senior year because I love watching him play for Utah. Yeah, I think it's just an incredible position group. I really don't have questions about the top guys, but it is the depth. Yeah. And so it's a 4 for me as well.
Josh Calvert played some really solid minutes the last few years. It's just how is he going to continue? He's going to be getting more minutes now because DeMooney's gone. He was always the 5th, 6th backer in the room. Now he's probably the 4th.
Yeah.
How does that help? It's just that's my biggest concern. That's what limits me. For 4.
And it's not like none of these guys have ever had injuries. I feel like they all.
They've all had
even
injuries.
Sione Fotu last year was injured for part of it. Lander Barton was injured. I think
that was a cursed year.
I think Cranny Reed had some
injuries.
He
got a concussion. Yeah, that's why Sione Fotu came in, and we were like, "Who is this guy? He looks great.
He's a dog.
Special teams dog." Sione Fotu,
the classic
2.0.
pipeline.
Yeah. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement on a solid 4.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, defensive tackles. This unit is stacked.
Yes. It's insane.
Junior Tafuna, Vimahi, Peppa, Tanavasa. It's a top 4. And I think any of those 4 could be all Big 12.
And then Tavita Fotu as well.
And then Tavita Fotu. I think
he's also like a Power 5 starter caliber interior defensive lineman.
I think any of those top 4 could genuinely be all Big 12 first or second team selections if they had a good year.
I think all of those guys would start for most Power 5 programs.
Probably 95% of programs in the country.
I think this is maybe the position of strength for Utah this year. As far as top tier quality and depth, it has both for me. This is the position I am probably least worried about.
Yeah, there's
I
such a
agree.
good mixture of skill sets as well. If you
Yeah.
really need some run stoppers, you can put in people like Vamahi, Peppa, even Tafuna's big enough. He has that size. And if you're looking for a more aggressive pass rush, Tanavas is a little lighter, a little more shifty. He gets by blockers like crazy.
Yeah.
There's just a lot that these defensive tackles can do.
Well, and there's been a lot of from Bartle. He's talked about Steve Bartle. He's talked really high praise on the freshmen that are coming in as well. I mean, I'm really excited for this group.
Yeah.
Easy 5 for me. I'm not concerned about this defensive tackle room at
Mhm.
all.
Yeah. There's so much talent, and then there's so much experience as well, and in-game reps, and they can survive even like 2 to 3 injuries. They could still
Yes.
survive that and be a good defensive line, which to me that means I'm extremely confident in that.
Mhm.
5 for me
It's a
easily.
5 for me as
Like
well.
if you had to, you can throw in Van Fillinger at defensive tackle. or
Yeah, I
something.
mean,
Yeah,
genuinely,
like-
you could.
Yeah.
Like,
how going to the ends. This defensive line in general is insane.
it's
this year.
unreal.
Like I talked about Van Fillinger. I mean, he's so big. He can even play D tackle if
It
necessary.
seems like he's actually leaned out a little bit, which
Yeah.
I like a lot. He got a little too big.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think he was dealing with some injuries as well. He
Mhm.
couldn't really get healthy the whole year, which limited his speed. He
Yeah.
did look pretty slow last year. If he can get back to the end of what he looked like at the end of 2022,
Yeah.
like those Oregon games,
Mhm.
or maybe the USC games where he was looking like
Yes.
a monster,
Mhm.
I think that he has really great potential.
And not to diss on any of the Big 12 programs. They're just not as athletic as the
Mhm.
top tier Pac-12 teams. I'm sorry, like the quarterback rooms for the Pac-12 are better than the Big 12. Van
Yeah.
Fillinger, even if he doesn't have that same first step, I think he's going to have a monster year. His size and his skill set as a defensive end is great, and he's probably
Yeah.
not even the best or the second best defensive end on the team this year.
And I mean, dude, let's talk about Logan Fano.
Oh yeah,
I think he's the best player on the defensive line, tackles included, and I think he's the second best player overall on the defense. When you watch the tape from last year before he got injured, he is destroying anyone trying to block him.
I feel
He
like
was getting pressure so quickly.
I feel like Ellis had the sack totals, but a lot of those were due to Fano's pressure moving him towards
Yes.
Ellis,
Agreed.
where he could put him in a position to do it.
Yes, I don't have the stats in front of me of like the pass rush win rate, but Logan Fano actually had the highest in the country for before he got
Yeah,
injured.
he-
He was number 1 in the country in beating his guy.
He was so good right away, and the fact that he's been able to recover from an ACL tear in 8 months is impressive.
He's
Mhm.
100%.
Yes,
100%
100% is
going to
what the
practice.
coaches
It's
are
just
saying.
crazy.
He's even set some of his like personal bests as far as speed records,
Which
and
is
cone drills and stuff
incredible.
like that after his ACL tear.
And we haven't even brought up one of the best for Utah in the last
Yeah.
4 years in Connor O'Toole.
Yeah,
Converted tight end, come to the end. Absolute
Mhm.
freak.
yeah. I think it was wide receiver to tight end,
That's
then to
insane,
defensive end.
actually.
and
That's
then,
a crazy progression.
yeah, exactly.
And then our freshman class. I mean, we got Elijah Ellis, who
Yeah,
is
Joan Ellis's younger brother.
Cash Dillon, who
Yeah.
Corner Canyon. I mean,
Exactly.
Kale Akana, who's been in the system for a while. He's more of a speed rusher, kind of a third down person you put in
Yeah.
passing situations.
And
I'm excited to see him.
John Henry Daly transferred from BYU. I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
I
anybody
actually went to
and you're
high school with him, and he's a unit.
if you're transferring any to Utah for the defensive line, I trust you.
Exactly.
And so I'm excited to see what he does. I don't think he'll get a lot of PT this year, but in the coming years, we have a lot of seniors in this room.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
think a
excited for
lot of
this year.
people have been really worried about, oh, who's that guy? We lost Ellis. Who's going to be
Mhm.
the guy that stepped up? It's going to be Logan Fano.
Yeah.
I think he is going to
I
be our
agree.
best defensive end. I think he's going to be a dominant force this year.
Yes.
And I expect him to be first team All Big 12. I think he's that good.
I mean, he's
Mhm.
going one-on-ones every single day
Yeah.
against his 4-star, one of the best tackle prospects in Utah
Yeah.
state history. And so, and Spencer Fano. And
Yeah.
so I think it'll be really great.
To me, I have the defensive ends at a 5 out of 5 confidence, but behind defensive tackles, just because defensive tackles has that extra depth. It's just insane.
I
The depth
agree.
is insane.
For me, I am going to go 4 above linebacker because I think that the injury situation is scary. All of them
Yeah,
have shown that they have a huge potential to be
that's
injured
true.
as far as the top three. So for me, I cannot put them a five simply because of that. I think that the linebackers' injuries were, more freak things, but losing Demooney
Yeah.
hurts. And so I would put defensive ends in four above the linebackers.
I agree completely.
Perfect.
So it looks like we're four
Four
above the
above the
linebackers.
linebackers.
So we are moving on to the offense. I'll pull up the offensive statistics here on the right.
It looks a little gloomy.
Yeah, disgusting
It looks
offensive
very, very
statistics.
dark. You may see a lot of boxes, colors that are not appealing to you.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Well, maybe they are appealing red, but
yeah,
not appealing in the context of the graph, I would say.
yeah,
But we got to take in consideration this offense is going to be complete. I wouldn't say completely different, but
I would say
pretty
completely
drastic.
different.
Yeah.
We're getting star quarterback. Well, we're going to talk about these guys a little bit later, but star quarterback Cameron Rising, other pieces from transfers from health. That's going to really really increase this production. We'll probably see a lot more green on this side of the ball
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah.
Probably one of my most interesting groups is the offensive line. They're just like the safeties and cornerbacks. They're quite young. We did lose Keaton Bills and Lamea to the draft last year,
Yeah.
and
And then we
and then Fayou
Mokafisi,
transferring.
Fayou, yeah, to Texas A&M, our center.
which is always
I will
interesting.
say, I don't think that's a huge loss. Fayou kind of had a rough year.
I think everyone on the offensive line did. It wasn't a good year simply because
Yeah.
Bryson Barnes held onto the ball too long,
But I
and we
mean,
had no threat of the throw
if
game.
you want to look at like our sacks per attempt, we're 89th in the country. I honestly place 0% of the blame on the offensive line. Like, I wouldn't look into that stat even because the quarterbacks just held onto the ball so long. What are you supposed to do?
I wouldn't say 0%, but I would put more of the blame on the quarterback for sure. I think there was things they could improve, but
hmm
having to block for 5 seconds at a time, you just cannot do that. The quarterback needs to get the ball out within 3.5
Agreed.
seconds every time. They have to.
It's more like 12 seconds in my
Yeah,
opinion.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, geez, I actually felt like they held up pretty well.
I mean, they had some moments. They had, especially at the beginning of the season, where a lot of offside penalties.
Yeah.
They did get cleaned up, and I do trust Jim Harding, the offensive line coach, to get that cleaned up and everything like that.
Yeah,
Our starting line, they could be really young, but I do trust. Again, I trust Jim Harding. Offensive line has always been one of those things where Utah constantly gets really
hmm
good guys, just like defensive ends, just like defensive tackles. The trenches has always been a really positive for
Yeah.
Utah, especially the last like 5 years.
yeah,
And so I've talked about him before, but Spencer Fano, I think he was left tackle last year. He's moving to right tackle this year.
yeah.
He looks really good.
I think from left to right, it's going to go Caleb Lomu, Isaiah Garcia. I think center is going to be right tackle. I think is going to be right guard is going to be Mokafisi, and then right tackle Spencer Fano.
Yeah.
Is that what we're thinking?
I think so. Another thing to consider as
Also
well.
got Johnny Maea.
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
I think he'll be the backup center, Johnny Maea. But
Another thing to think about is we brought in a tight end like Carson Ryan, who's an elite level blocker. That will also help the running game.
But then,
Yeah.
we're talking about again, but Brant Keithy,
Yeah,
an
Brant
excellent
Keithy back.
run blocker as well.
Brant Keithy is one of the best second level blockers I've ever seen. He is so good at blocking linebackers; it's unbelievable.
Yeah. As far as the O line goes, I think that there is, I think we're upgrading in talent as far as, that goes with putting in a couple 4 stars in
Yeah.
Lomu and Garcia. But I think we're downgrading in experience and probably maybe physical size right now because it just takes a while for linemen to get big enough to play. So for me, I'm going to go with 3. I'm more confident in them than the cornerbacks, but I not enough to move it to 4 just because of the youth and inexperience there.
I will say some of the stats, or maybe what we're saying, might signal 2 to some people. But I'm thinking back to 2021 when Cam Rising came in to the game replacing Charlie Brewer. Our offensive line was Swiss cheese that year. As soon as Cam came in, it seems like everything just started clicking.
Yeah, I'm
the
expecting a
offensive line.
similar thing too.
He's throwing the ball much faster. The run plays are being executed much more quickly. I think Cam's much better at identifying who needs to block who and pre-snap reads.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I have the offensive line at a 3 as well.
I agree completely what you're saying, but I think it's because I have more confidence in a different position. I'm closer to a 2 in the offensive line this year than I am a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have them probably right below the cornerback room. Again, it seems to be there's gonna be a lot of youth on the offensive line. With Lamu, Garcia, and Sfano. But that could also mean just they're that dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So,
super talented players.
I'm
all
really
4 stars.
I'm
Yeah.
really excited. I really think they're gonna be really good. I'm just not 100% sold on it quite yet. So I do have them probably like if there was like point ratings, I probably have like
Yeah.
2.75.
Right.
I
below
will
3.
say an interesting wrinkle to this conversation is that our O line's used to playing against Pac-12 defenses where it's usually a 4-man front with a little more size. The Big 12, a lot of teams actually run a 3-man front
Yeah.
and then bring pressure through linebackers.
Off- outside linebacker.
And
yeah.
so having some linemen that maybe are more mobile and more talented in that way might actually help picking up blitzes and things like that,
That's
which is
definitely
something to consider.
the Fanos and the Lomus of the
Yes,
world.
exactly.
It's definitely
Like-
the mobile type lineman.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the more agile instead of power.
So
Yeah,
do
I
we
mean,
kind of
Fano's
agree?
a freak athlete.
Yes.
So I think 3 above cornerback is
Above or Ethan was kind of
I'm
low.
I have them below
well,
cornerback.
2 above, 1 below. right?
Yeah.
So
I have him a little above as well.
Yeah, 3 is very, very fine.
Yeah, it's like it's splitting hairs at the point.
Talking about probably one of my
This
that's
room
one
is
of my
so
favorite.
stacked.
I love it.
Yep. Starting on the tight end room, the 4 guys that I think are going to make noise in the tight end room this year, obviously Brant Keithy,
Mhm.
Landon King, Carson Ryan, and former basketball player
Yes.
Caleb Lohner. 6'8", incredible athlete, can get any jump ball, and apparently he's been impressive. What do you guys think about the tight end room?
I mean, what more could you possibly want? In my opinion, this is easily the best tight end unit in the entire country. Well, you have the top end talent with someone like Brant Keithy, who's just an absolute offensive weapon, so explosive. You have a guy that's almost like a Kincaid-esque in Landon King. He still needs to develop that route running and catching ability Kincaid had, of course, but he's on a track for that. And then just throwing in someone like Carson Ryan from UCLA, proven great blocker. It almost reminds me of like what we had with Fotheringham. And then, I mean, you even just throw a wild card in there, 6'8" basketball player that apparently has been dominating.
Yeah.
Like, come on, what more do you need?
If you want to hype yourself up a little bit on Caleb Lohner, go look up Wasatch Academy dunk highlights. He played for them back in the day and when he was in high school. Ball his life was there watching alley-oop mixtapes. Just an absolute dominant. He was the number 1 player for that team. Anyways, it's super cool. If you want to hype yourself up a little bit about his athleticism, but if we're talking about tight ends, you cannot not talk about Brant freaking Keithy. He is insane. Probably one of my favorite football players from Utah ever. I know Landon's easily his favorite
He's
ever.
my goat.
But just bringing him back is just so nice to see. I'm obviously slightly concerned about his health. Does he still have that explosiveness after his 2-year hiatus? Well, I guess like a year
and a half.
It was a while.
Pretty much 2 years almost.
Yeah.
So the thing for me that I love is all 4 players are so different in their skill
so
sets.
crazy.
Yes.
It's so interesting.
I think that having almost no overlap is going to be so key for the offense. You know, Andy Ludwig will have a plethora of options to choose from as far as the
Yes.
tight end room.
Dude, that's going to be so hard for teams to prepare for. Because say Utah runs out with like 12 personnel, they have 2 tight ends out. You see, okay, who are the tight ends? Maybe we have Keithy, maybe we have Landon King, maybe we have Carson Ryan, maybe we have Caleb Lohner. You have to play each completely differently. Because like Keithy's out there, maybe you try and put a defensive back on him because you know he might be running something deeper. But then conversely, you see Caleb Lohner out there, and it's like, crap, we need like our biggest linebacker or biggest safety on this guy. It's just going to be really hard for teams to deal with. To me, this is 5, and I would have this as our top group.
This is 5 for me, but below the defensive tackles
Mhm.
because I think the DTs 1 through 4 is more proven than 1 through 4 in the tight ends, except for Keithy, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that in general, the 4 defensive tackles have more experience than the 4 tight ends. So I'm going to go 5, but below DTs.
It's interesting because on paper, this tight end room is probably, and this is probably one of our big homer take, but it is probably on paper the best position group in the country.
I agree.
You have just like, but does that translate to the field?
Mm-hmm.
So I do have them as a 5 below the defensive tackles for the same
I can
reasons
agree with
Tanner
that.
has. I do want to bring up one person. I know you guys aren't biggest fans of him, but he does bring experience. He's going to be tight end 5, but it's Mika Sugaturaga.
Don't mention that man's name.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him either.
I mean,
No,
just
just
having
you're
someone
trying to
who's
drop it down to a 4.
or just having someone who has as much experience as he does as our tight end 5, it just shows you how good the room is.
Yeah. For me, I think best position group in the country is much too far. I think
Probably.
I think Ohio State wide receivers would have something to say about that.
I think
I
you
also
meant
think Ohio
best
State
position group for
safeties.
tight ends, or did you mean overall?
He meant
On paper,
overall.
okay,
in the
overall's
country.
crazy.
I know it's a crazy take,
Overall is
but just
crazy.
Overall is crazy.
just having the change in pace for all 4. It's just on paper. I'm not saying
You would rather have our tight end room than Ohio State's full receiver room?
obviously it's that's hard to say.
But like you would not.
No way.
See, there's a lot of rooms you would want over the tight end.
Of course,
because
but like I said, it's a
we're
hard
talking,
take.
impact on
we're
the
talking
game.
relative to Utah football.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was like I said before, I was saying it was a homer take.
I
It's
thought
on
you
paper.
just
It's
meant
such an
for
interesting
tight
room.
ends, and I agreed with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a-
the best tight end room. I
Yeah.
agree with that too. But it's not close to the best
come
position group in
on.
the country.
Come on, show your homer, Landon. Show it.
I mean, I do think Keith is the best tight end by far. I would actually say there's a significant gap,
Yeah.
but that's for another day.
Okay, let's move on to the receivers. The receivers, I think, have given you more reason to be optimistic than maybe at any point in Utah football history, as far as like the collection
Well,
of talent.
Will this year be the biggest improvement in Utah football history from receiver yardage from last year to
Yes,
last year?
Absolutely.
In like receiving
Absolutely.
touchdowns and
We
receiving
only
yards.
had like 1,300 passing yards last year.
Yes,
We're
I
going to
think would
have like
to be.
3,500 this year, or maybe
Minimum.
4,000.
I think we're going to reach
Potentially.
4,000.
See, for me, I just cannot imagine Utah throwing the ball that much to get 4,000, but 3,500 I think is on the table.
I'm starting to see the vision. I truly think we're going to.
See, this is my problem. They say this every year. What have we heard for the last 3 years? Oh, we're going to throw deep. We're going to throw deep.
Yeah.
The receivers are going to be more involved, and it never happens.
Yeah, but we've never had Dorian Singer, Damian Alford, Tayshawn Lyons, Michael Pittman, Money Parks,
It's just insane.
Brant Keithy,
Zachariah Williams.
We have too many threats.
Manir McLean. Like,
Yeah, Junior McLean's even nice. I mean, Calderella's nice.
See, I totally agree.
I mean, Bernard in the passing game.
I totally agree as far as the talent is there. It's just, are we going to use it? They always say we are. They always say we
I
are.
will
It's
say,
extremely valid
I
concern.
still believe Brant Keithy will have the most receiving yards.
Oh, I agree with that. I think he's the best. True. Like the best receiving option. I think it's Dorian Singer number 2.
I
is what I
think
would
that
put.
he also has the most plays that will be called for him. I
Yeah.
think he has about 50 plays that are designed to get him the ball,
I agree
which
with
I
that.
approve of, but that's just how it's going to be.
How I'm saying Dorian Singer is as broken as he is in real life as he is in college football 25. We're in for a treat,
That
ladies and
dude
gentlemen.
dominates in
Yeah.
college football 25. Dude wins the Heisman in every single dynasty I do because he gets 40 touchdowns a year.
If he's anything like that, we're in for a treat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Best wide receiver of all time.
To me, the wide receiver room for Utah is a 5. This is the best wide receiver room we've ever had, and I think it's just loaded with talent and depth.
See, but this isn't a talent ranking, it's a confidence ranking.
Yeah.
So how confident am I that they are going to be an elite group? I cannot go 5. I just can't with Utah's history. See, I'm going 4 behind linebackers for wide receivers as far as
I don't know, dude. I think I could say 5. I guess that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to disagree.
I have a 5 in the confidence in the room itself and the players, but a 3 for the play confidence.
I mean, you got to take it into account.
Yeah,
because
you-
it's how
you do.
confident, like real world, not in a vacuum. How confident in the real world is this group going to
Yeah,
be?
and look at how many multiple tight end sets we run. That limits the
Yeah.
number of receivers that gets on the field directly. Like, will we ever have 5 receivers on the field at one
No.
point? I don't think so.
Let's go for tight end room now.
Yeah, and so to me, that limits it for me. So it's 4 behind linebacker for me.
I have it 4 above linebacker. I think I'm a little
Below defensive end.
Yeah, I'm
What do
a
you think,
little
right
more,
in the middle?
I'm a little more confident just because the depth in the wide receiver room is absurd. This is
Mhm.
the best wide receiver room Utah's ever had, probably by a landslide. You can't even comprehend
Yeah.
it. I mean, Micah Pittman, one of the players that we don't even talk
Proven
about.
player, dude.
We don't even talk about ever because we had Dorian Singer, Damian Alford, Money Parks. Micah Pittman is a dog.
Yes.
He's a dog, and he would have been wide
He's
receiver 1 last
genuinely
year if
like
he
a
didn't get
good
injured.
Power 5 receiver.
I mean, played for Oregon and played for Florida State.
Yes.
Doesn't really. You got Dorian Singer, absolute dog play for Arizona. Probably would be wide receiver 1, maybe wide receiver 2 for Arizona with Tedro McMillan. But just absolute freaks. I had them over linebackers at 4. I can't give them a 5, even though I do believe that they are excellent.
I feel good about. I have to go
4.
behind linebacker if we're going 4.
That's fine with me. I mean, I just the depth gives.
Yeah,
gives
that's what I would choose is behind linebacker.
I don't know. The depth of wide receiver is so much, though.
I
For
mean,
me, it's above linebacker. So if me and Ethan both agree with
Okay,
that,
yeah, you both agree. Put
it's
it above
crazy. Like
linebacker.
Manir McLean would probably be wide receiver 2 years ago. Now he's probably wide receiver 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's crazy how much the depth has changed. Okay, let's talk about the running backs. I think that as far as top end talent, this is probably the weakest position for
agreed.
Utah football. I think. I don't think the top end is really there.
This will get the lowest marks for me because I could actually see our running back room being kind of dysfunctional.
See, I think the depth is good, but there's no standout. I don't think there really was a standout last year either because I wasn't a
Agreed.
huge Jaquindon guy as far as his
Yeah.
talent. Love the player, love the person, but I didn't think he was like an elite running back. I thought he was just okay.
Glover did start improving towards the end of the year, actually.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be kind of a slow burn player that gets better, but he's not someone that I would want as number 1, if that makes sense.
yeah. There isn't the number 1 there. It's a bunch of number
Yeah.
2s and number 3s.
Dijon Stanley, he's too light to be like your number 1 running back. He's more of a skill guy.
Yeah, the comp I've been coming up with him for a lot is Jalen Dixon. I think they're going to put in packages for him for end
Yeah.
arounds. They're going to put in, he's going to go in some slot fades. I think that he's going to do a lot of things that are maybe not the traditional running back things, but are
Mhm.
kind of your packages.
I mean, yeah, there's not much to add. It's just who's going to be RB1. Can that person stay healthy?
Yeah.
Can that person produce as an RB1? And then also how if we are really doing 30, 65, 35, how much are they going to get the ball in the first place?
Honestly, yeah.
I mean, I would be shocked if any running back in the room had more than 5 touchdowns.
I don't think that we're going to be 65-35 pass. That's just too much for Utah. 60-40 pass run at the most, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Kyle Whittingham is going to run the ball. It's been in his DNA for 20 years. He's not going to stop now.
You're probably correct.
I will say with the running back room, I like Mekhi Bernard a lot as a player, and I think he is like a bona fide good Power 5 starter. It's just his durability. Every time, and it's what the offensive coordinator Ludwig has been saying. He loves the talent. He just doesn't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy and take that many carries, which I agree with.
If he's the RB1, that's a Kyle Whittingham Utah offense. That's probably at least 15 carries.
Yes, he's running in between the tackles. He's running into those linebackers.
Yeah, getting hit by huge DPs that are going to crush him. And so it's just a lot.
For me, I think this is an interesting one because there's probably 4 guys that could be the best running back in the room, being Micah Bernard, Jalen Glover, Dijon Stanley, and then Mike Mitchell. He's shown, according to
Mike
coaches
Mitchell,
and sources, he's really, really looked really good during fall and spring. He's a big body.
Yes.
He could take those 15 attempts a game.
Yeah. If Mike Mitchell could take that step and become like the number 1 like heavy usage guy, that would help the offense so much.
Yep.
And someone we don't really talk about a lot because he was walk on, but he's been for the team for 4 years. Charlie Vincent, he looks really good as well. He could take a lot of snaps this year as well.
I actually kind of like him.
Same. He reminds me of like a Micah Bernard light type player, where he's very versatile both in the run and pass game.
I think he's an excellent rush blocker as well.
And he grinds. He's a grinder too.
He's willing to do whatever it takes. And I think he'll just because of that mindset, he'll get a lot of fun.
I do like Charlie Vincent.
So overall for me, running backs, it's going to be at, I'll say 2, but above safety, because I simply think the depth is good enough that I think someone is going to be okay. They have enough options to find someone to be at least average. And so 2 for me above safety.
With how Utah runs the ball and uses the run, I just don't think I can put it below a 3. I would put it at the back of 3 for me.
There's 5, 6 guys in the running back room that could easily get over like 50 touches this year. There's just 80% of the room can be used this year in offense.
Yeah.
It's like just because of that depth, I do have them above safety out of 2.
Gotcha. So what are we doing? Top of 2 is
Top
where
of
we're
2.
kind of ending.
Yeah, probably.
It's just that concern of the
Mhm.
health. Quarterback, probably what everybody's been waiting for.
I just have to say, I like Cam Rising so much as a player. If he had less injury history, he would easily be a 5 and be in contention, or the room would easily be a 5 and be in contention for the very top spot. And this might be a hot take. I still have them in a 5, though. I think Sam Huard behind Cam Rising is the truth. I think our QB room is the best it's ever been right now. With Isaac Wilson and Cam and Sam Huard, I have them at 5 behind tight end.
Yeah, it does seem like Rose has kind of been forgotten, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
he's cooked.
I
It's
think the
over.
coaches have kind of supplanted him, and he's kind of a distant fourth. I
Yeah.
think from what the reporting has been so far about Hard and Wilson, it does seem like they are kind of in a dead heat for QB2. The rising thing, the injury risk is so real. Has he gotten through a year yet where he hasn't missed a
No,
game or
he
snaps?
hasn't.
He
Nope.
has not. And so I'm expecting to see the backup for probably at least 1 to 2 games this year.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, for me, it makes it so it cannot be a 5 number 1 in the 5. And so, yeah, depending on who wins that battle between Wilson and Ward, hopefully they're prepared and ready to play because I think they
Yeah.
will get snaps this year. Yeah.
I don't know why, but I feel pretty confident Huard will win it, and I think he'll be a really solid option at backup.
Yeah. He does have talent. Former 5-star committed
Yeah.
to Washington. New coaching staff comes in, not really a place for him anymore. They want to bring in Penix, transfers to Cal Poly. Was good there, but not spectacular, I would say. Has all the attributes, big arm,
Yeah.
tall, can read the field, everything that makes you a 5-star. The coaches clearly like that archetype because that's the archetype that they
Exactly.
recruit. Constantly is the archetype they recruit. So it all really depends on him picking up the system, I think.
Mitch, and it's hard. I'm on the same exact boat as Landon when it comes to believing in Cam. I mean, led us to back-to-back Pac-12 championship games. He gets injured in the Rose Bowl. Comes in, wins the battle in 2020, gets injured game 1. It's just so one of those things. Every single year he's played, he's been
gotten injured.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's missed good amount of time.
Yep.
That's my biggest concern. I do believe in the backups. I do think Isaac and Sam Howard are good. But we saw it last year. Do the backups even have the playbook?
Yeah,
it's one of
it's-
those things.
Ludwig has claimed that Isaac Wilson already has 95% of the playbook at his disposal, which is mind-boggling to me.
I mean, it's all just variations on a halfback dive. It's the,
I mean, what kind of playbook?
it's the backup playbook, not the starter playbook. probably.
Apparently, there must be 2 different playbooks.
Yeah, there has to be.
It's,
Well, see, here's
it's,
my thing.
it's hard.
Last year in the bowl game, they said Rose was not ready and did not know the playbook. Here's my question. What plays was he running in the spring?
Agreed.
What plays was he running in the spring game?
Rose actually had a really good spring game 2 years ago. He played great.
Yeah, and then bad this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Rose hype has cooled significantly. I'd still love for him to be a great quarterback. It just looks like he's the odd man out kind of right now. But man, next year, hell of a battle between Hard and Wilson for the starter,
Yeah.
I think.
I actually really like that battle between them. I think Utah will end up in a good spot either way.
I'm intrigued because on Utah's roster, I mean, it could be different. He is listed as a senior, Howard.
Oh, I thought he was a junior this year. Maybe he's not.
listed as a senior, but that could just be academic.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if that is his football, how much time he has left.
Because I thought he'd only played 2 years. 1 at Washington, 1 at Cal Poly.
I saw when he first transferred, I think he was listed as a junior, and so I
Right.
think he
has
have
2
2
years.
years.
Yeah, I think he has another year.
He
of
would not have
eligibility.
transferred here if he only had 1
That'd
year
be
left.
I agree. I just wanted to bring that up just because maybe we were confused on that part. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see. With everything said, I do have the quarterback room is the highest 4. Cam Rising, if he stays on the field for however many games we play this year, he'll be a top 5 quarterback in the country.
Yeah, so he only played 1 game in 2022, which means he could still redshirt.
Yeah.
So Sam Howard has 2 years of eligibility.
Perfect.
remaining.
Beautiful.
And so I do have Cam Rising probably carrying us to the 4, the highest 4 above the ends.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's those bottom of 5. What do you have, Tanner?
A bottom of 5 as well.
It's a bottom of 5.
Yeah.
Cam's just too good to discount that. He's
I
the best,
agree.
in
Yeah.
my opinion, he's the best quarterback in Utah history.
I agree with that as well.
And so it's just like I can't put that lower than 5.
Alex Smith fans are going to come after you guys.
Well, I love Alex Smith. Too.
I think he's amazing.
I just give you a hard time.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't disagree with Cam at the quarterback room as 5-star just because Cam just concerned about the health.
Yep. And
Yep.
that's very valid. Super valid.
Okay.
And
So
then we can touch on special teams quickly. I'm pretty confident this year. We actually got a kicker that can hit
Cole
out.
Becker's been great.
So I have them at like probably a 3-4.
yeah, and then our punter is insane too.
Bowmeister. I mean, it's the
Bowmeister is
reload every
great.
year that he's goaded. He's
See,
insane.
But here's the thing. The thing we're not considering is special teams is also about your kickoff, your kick return, covering, which
dude,
I don't know. Losing Sione Vaki, losing probably Sione Fotu. I
Dude, I'm
can't
telling
imagine
you,
he's playing special
Bishop
teams.
was special teams too. He was making a lot of tackles.
Yes, and so I'm saying we have allowed a ton of punt returns, of kick returns, of any kind of stuff. I'm very worried about that. We have had 2 years to fix it, and it has not been fixed.
Someone always steps up. I guarantee this year, Calderella has the most special teams tackles of any player.
That's your prediction?
That's my prediction.
Calderella. Okay, see, for me, because of, the risk of punt returns, I mean, just think of the USC game where Zachariah Branch just took one of the house.
I mean, our coverage was
Literally,
atrocious.
everyone in the stadium, besides our coaching staff, knew not to kick it to him, and they still kicked it to him.
Yes.
And yeah. So for me, I just gotta go 3, bottom of 3. I mean, I'm confident in some things and not confident in all in others.
I think having Cole Becker and Bowmeister, that matters a lot to me. The only question is kick return and punt return coverage.
Yeah.
So they're in 4 for me. Probably a mid 4. I'd put them probably behind. It's actually kind of a goated unit. I might do top of 4 for special teams. Cole Becker and Bowmeister are good.
Yeah, they're very good.
They're actually elite nationally, both of them.
It's true. I do think we also should talk about a little bit the kick returners and punt returners. I'm probably going to see Micah Pittman and Dijon Stanley back there. I mean, if we're talking about Dijon Stanley,
I love that.
I mean, like we talked about, he's a Jalen Dixon role. The reason why he's compared to Jalen Dixon because he's freaking fast as all hell. And so if Dijon Stanley breaks away, we're looking at a touchdown there.
Yeah.
Zachariah Branch type of player. I do have them in the 3 tier. I don't really have them anywhere above or below any position. Yeah. They're good, but they have concerns.
Yeah, put them top of 3. Then.
Top of 3. I had them top of 4. You had them bottom of 3. So that sounds fair.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching. We're going to try to be consistent in these videos coming up. Let us know if there's any videos you'd like to see, any ideas for something you'd like us to discuss. Please, like the video, subscribe, comment down below. Those things all really help us, get some momentum and traction in doing this. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much.